Thank you for watching my American History Notes, where I discuss my conclusions I've drawn from studying American history, which you may not agree with, but you should at least know about the people, places, concepts, ideas that I'm talking about, and even more to be conversant in American history. And like I say, I don't expect you to agree with my conclusions. But if I make a misstatement of fact or date or something, let me know so I can research it. Okay, so we're going to start today. John Quincy Adams, the sixth president of the United States, served from 1825 to 1829. In that office, a one term president like his father. A Harvard graduate, he practiced law and served as a diplomatic representative in many countries, including Russia and England, had been Secretary of State under Monroe, and served as a U.S. Senator and Congressman from Massachusetts. None of the candidates in the election of 1824 had received enough votes for a clear majority. So, with Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams as the frontrunners, Henry Clay had the ability to throw his support to either candidate winning the election. Clay met with Adams and shortly afterward threw his support to him. Jackson and the other contender, Secretary of the Treasury W.H. Crawford of Georgia, cried foul and accused Clay and Adams of a corrupt deal. Jackson never forgave Adams for, quote, stealing the election, according to Robert Remini and his three-volume biography of Andrew Jackson. This was the last election in which political caucuses chose the candidates who would run for election. Clay got to be Secretary of State. Just to point out to you that people accusing other people in the presidential elections of stealing the election is not new. And we'll get to some more as time goes by. Acknowledging that two-thirds of the people had chosen someone else, Adams vowed to try to do his best. Adams called for a broader interpretation of the Constitution, allowing for public works to be funded by the federal government for the, quote, benefit of the people. He had little support from Congress or the people, and his plans were not realized. He left office and the country $58 million in debt, but blamed Congress for the shortfall. Haven't we heard that one before? Andrew Jackson, the hero of the Battle of New Orleans and the Creek Indian Wars, defeated him soundly in 1828. Still, John Quincy Adams was a man of high ideals and a merciful attitude. For the last 17 years of his life, and while he served in Congress, he was greatly respected by some of his for his stance against slavery. A, quote, gag rule had been instituted in the House of Representatives, forbidding them to discuss the institution of slavery, which came to be called the, quote, the peculiar institution. He finally got the gag rule removed in 1845. He died in the U.S. Capitol in 1848. Reading from Senator Thomas Hart Benton's 30 Years View, a history of the working of the American government for 30 years from 1820 to 1850, a book whose title will make a modern person have to take a nap after reading it, we see that even Adams' enemies thought of him as a man of high integrity, even though Jackson always thought of him as the guy who stole the election by offering Henry Clay a seat in his cabinet. Louisa Johnson Adams was very involved in the social aspects of the presidency. Each morning, her husband would carefully prepare a set of cards for her with each visit she needed to make, as much as she hated it, of politically important people's wives in government, sometimes visiting as many as 25 homes in one day from one end of Washington, D.C. to another. On top of that, with each round of Congress convening, there'd be a whole new set of visitors calling on her husband. She referred to the constant interruptions as distressing but unavoidable. In spite of her efforts, she was not unanimously liked. In spite of the tension of her husband's political career, they remained married 50 years. Congress adjourned for her funeral in 1853. Such was the respect she held after it was all said and done. Now, we're going to start with Andrew Jackson's presidency next, and just hope you enjoyed this and causes you to do some digging. Thank you.